session state, view state, and application state differences we have already seen, right? So now let's start with the application, which we have seen application events now, so that you will understand much better way. If you remember, we have already created our global application class, which is the global.sx class, right? Where we have already seen many events in this, right? So here we have application start, session start, right? Application error, session error. Right? All these events are, triggered during the life cycle of an application, right? And your session will be triggered whenever your session, anywhere in application, right? Whenever the session starts, right? Then this will be triggered, right? Same way your application, whenever your application level, application states are triggered, right? Different application state you actually start a variable in application state and all, right? And during the application start, if you want to initialize some variables, initialize some or set some application state variables, right? Or set some session state variables, right? So all these stuff you can actually do during the start of the application in this. So this will be triggered only once in the life cycle of application, right? Whereas the session start will be triggered every time a new session gets started, right? Same way your application error. This is a method which will be triggered. Will actually come to the error part in our and authentications and everything in our future classes, because we're going to see the exception handling part and the authentication parts, different type of authentications in .NET. We're going to see that. Specific to ASP.NET, right? And your session application end will be triggered during the end of your application. So whenever you are going to unload the application from server, it will be triggered. And session end is the one which will be triggered every time you normally kill the session. Now, kill the session in the sense whatever session we create, it may be timed out, right? Different things. Timeout is something where the session is ending, right? And you have set some timeout for your custom timeout for ending that session and all, right? So while ending the session, so this session will be called down. So these are different life cycle events which we have in application, which are application events. Now the next one which we have in events is a page level. Now this page level events is something which is very important. Now this actually defines, right, how different events get triggered when page starts loading, right? So this is something which is of great importance. We'll see this part as something called page lifecycle or events. So there are a sequence of events which will be triggered whenever your page is loaded. Now let me close all and let me create a new page here. Form, and this, let me call it as lifecycle. I'm just calling my page as lifecycle. Here I'm not going to write anything on my form, rather I'll show you how to create different events, right, which will be triggered. Now normally if you go to code view, right, so we have already one event which is already there, which is page load, right? Now let's see first the complete list of events which will be triggered sequentially, right? And then we'll go ahead and see how it is getting triggered, right? Now here, so the first event which will be triggered is pre-init, which is a pre-initialized event, right? So pre-init is something which will get triggered even before initializing your page, right? So this is a event of the complete page lifecycle, right? Where the actual postback events or the actual callback events will get initialized, whether it's a postback or not, right? Whether it response is you're getting is a pure get response, right? All those variables, all those properties will be set in pre-initialize, right? So this pre-initialize happens even before your initialize is triggered, right? And this is the area where you can set if you want to set some scripts and theme settings and all, right? For your controls, you can actually set everything in here, right? In your pre. And if you want to do some dynamic rendering of your controls, yes, you can also do that. But here, so how to actually create a dynamic controls and actually add them to page, we'll see that in our future classes anyways, right? So this is your pre-init. Now even before initializing of your page, if you want to do something, you can actually do the key. And then you have init event, which is a initialization of your event, page initialization, right? So this initialization is something which occurs after pre-init, which means in pre-init whatever you have set, you have created dynamic controls, you have created AV events, few internal properties like ease, post, drag, and everything would have been set, and all those things have been done in pre-init. And in it, right here, what will happen is first after actually creating over the page object, right? All your controls will be initialized in this object, right? So in this web form, there are few things which are very important, right? Now in this init, right, your main view state, right? Let's say your controls are initialized in here, which is the object of controls, right? Will be created in your pre-init event, right? But let's say there are, by default, we know that ASP.NET controls have got view state enabled by default, right? Now, if the page rendering is post-back rendering, right? Then what happens? Whatever the data or whatever the value was before the event clicked or triggered by you, right? So that value will be saved in a view state and should be assigned back. That's what we have seen yesterday, right? We took one text box, which is HTML text box and ASP.NET control text box, right? And when we clicked on button, our ASP.NET control text box was populated with the same value. Now how it is getting populated? Because in our init method, right, our view state value for that control is reverted back again to that text box. So that's the reason why you can see it is not only with text box. Go with the combo box or a radio buttons, right, or check box, anything, or everything. If you check a checkbox, then your event will be retained. All these stuff will happen, right, in this init method, right? The main, it's a very important event where all your use states will be reinitialized to all the controls which are initialized in pre-init. Right? So all your server controls will be initialized, and then you have your init complete. And after completing, now this, what do we need to complete is, so before loading, right? Before preloading of your page, if you want to do anything, you have this event which is pre-init complete, which happens before page preload, right? So which is your pre-init. And then you have something called preload. Now we have seen page load, right? Page underscore load. But even before that, if you want to load a few controls or assign for few controls even before load, right? We have preload to do that. And then we have a main event called load, or normally we call it page load. Anyways, for all events we'll have page underscore, which will be which normally we'll call a page, which is a class, perform class we have, right, with the event. A page load, this is something where your actual controls, right, everything will be would have been created and assigned with the values whatever they want, and they are ready to retrieve the values or send the new values in your page. But till here, all your controls, right, and everything will be instantiated and will be ready. So once your page load, which means your controls are ready, Then you have something called events, or normally called control events, right? So in this event, all the events related to controls will be registered, right? Because control, I'll show you how it get registered, right? All the events will get registered with the respective controls, and obviously it's very important while starting up application. It's very important that all events or event methods normally should get attached to the event handlers of the controls. Now that happens in your control events. Right? Now once it is done, which means now the load is done and we have a load complete, right? Where all your control events, once the tagging, handler tagging is done, then it is completed, and if you want to make anything, you can actually make it load complete. Now till this part, right, till from the pre-init to load complete, right, your controls, your page and your object or different libraries would have been instantiated, and whatever values you have set, you have set. And after that it comes to rendering part, render events. The first one is pre-render. Now what I'm actually talking about rendering is like everything is ready and HTML is built and served by the server, and that HTML I can actually paste it on or paint it on, or the server or the machine response, right, will actually paint it on a browser. But just before that you have every event called pre-render. Even before rendering, if you want to do any changes, you can actually do it. And you have pre-render and pre-render complete event, right? So this is just triggered after pre-render, and we have one more important event called unload, right? All the resources, right? When we say unload, right, obviously whenever it starts init and everything, right, your class object will be created, your controls will be instantiated, your controls will be set with the if there are any new state values being saved, will be set, right? All your controls will be added to your page object wherever it is needed, and the complete page object will be completely translated to HTML to actually render on the browser, right? And you have a pre-render where you can actually set some rendering, but all this needs some memory, right? And that memory will be actually created even before pre. And whenever you have an unload, right, which means once the page is completely loaded, then at the end your unload method will be called, where all the memory will be freed out. That's the reason why in unload you have to do some sort of killing the processes and connections if you have, or different stuff, whatever you can do it unload. I mean releasing the resources, right? Because in after your complete memory is lost, which means your complete object is exposed, because your page is already rendered on a browser, right? When you have an unload, right? So these are different life cycle events which you have which you have for page, right? And one method in a page, we have seen application underscore error, if you remember, in global.assets. Now that event will be triggered whenever any exception happens across the complete application, right? But if anything happens across a page, then you have one event called error event, right? In case of any fatal exception in the page, right, it will actually trigger your error event. If you want to write or redirect to admin screen, you can do it. Or else it will give you a error screen, right? You can handle your exception at your page level. Tomorrow will actually come to exception handling in your application. Fine. So let's go ahead and see how we can actually create these events, right? Do we need to remember all this? A few things like yes, what part happens in which event is important to remember. But while developing, if you want to actually check out the events, right, you can check that. Now by default you have page load. Now in order to see other events, go to the page and right click or let's go to page and go to view and we have something called component designer. Click on that, right? So this is your component designer, and now let's go to properties. Now this is your properties window which we have, where you can see I have two different things. One is the properties section or the events. Click on events. Now you can see, right, all the events, right, whatever are pertaining to this page. You can see this is the actual class UI page, right? So in this page, let's say if I go back to this, right, if I go to properties, now you can see in drop down whatever properties I can set for different HTML elements. I have everything. If I set page, I'm actually setting page view. If I set head, I'm actually selecting that. If I set form, you can see I'm selecting the properties of form. Same way here, you have your designer of your page, and in that you have different events. Now let's start with pre-init. Now how can I actually set this? Now we know that page load is something which will be loaded, right? Now assigning your controls with the event methods is nothing but this. Load is there, and you can see you can actually tag your page load to load event, or else it will be directly triggered because you're using the class name or the method in the class, right? Now let's go ahead and say something called pre-init, because pre-init is the first event. Now to actually trigger this, double click on this. You can see, right, we have a lifecycle underscore pre-init, and it will get initialized, right? It will get registered with your page, right? And let's go back and say after pre-init I have in, double click on this, right? Let's go back and let's say your init complete is the next one, right? And after init complete, we have reload, right? And after that, you know that we have a load. Let me cut it and paste it. Anyways, we are going to change the names. Don't worry. We are just registering the component here. Now here, what it does is it will actually register with our parent pages. Different event methods, which is actually uh, tagging the event handlers. But normally, instead of getting confused, we normally use direct page underscore pre-init, page underscore pre-init. We're going to change that because we're going to use same convention as is, right? So here you have exactly preload. Go back, and we have seen load also, right? So your preload is done, your load is done. Once your load and preload is done, then what is the next one is your render, right? Or load complete, right? After load is done, your load is completed. So once your page is completely loaded, which means your all the components are ready. Now once all the components are ready, then it's a rendering part, right? You have pre-render, right? And let's say you have pre-render complete, right? And then let's say you have the last one, which is save edits, and also add error part. We also have some error, right? So we have actually considered um, all the events in sequential, and let's actually replace your method name. I'm going to replace this. So these are how you replace. The shortcut is whatever you want to replace that and do some control H. Control H will open up a find and replace with. And here you have two different options. One is replace all. It will one shot will replace everything, or replace the rest. Right? So these are it triggers. Or first let's debug directly this one. Let me make it as a startup. Yes. Make lifecycle page as startup page. Right? So here in pre-init and all. Now let's write something. Now here till yesterday we have seen that whatever you want to write on a page, right? We used to write from here, like hello world and different stuff. Now including that, you can also write something from your class file. Now how can I write something on On the page you have something called response dot write, or you can say response dot write. Right? Let's say this is a pre-init, right? Now let me call it as this is a pre-event here. Now this will be directly painted, or this will be rendered on a page. Let me put a breakpoint. Right? Same way, let me copy this right to all, and then let me change. So that you will see that all stuff will be triggered using content. Now this is very important for basically to understand the actual page lifecycle. Right event sequence. Now let me do one thing. Let me just do Control S over here, and I have this. Let me read this off. Let me go ahead and so you can see I'm just replacing page right. Now this is fine. Now let's run this. Right. Now you can see your pre-init is the first event which will get triggered. F5. Now you can see init method. You can see init complete, preload, page load, load complete, render, your render complete, and then see here what happens. Everything is completed, and whenever it triggers, right, your unload is already done. The memory is freed up, and then you are trying to write something on page, which will not happen because the rendering is completed. See, once your rendering is completed, which means you can't write any more things on page, right? But even then I am trying to write. See what happens if I do go ahead. It says response is not available in this context because you can't write anything when your complete rendering part is done. So let me just comment it out and write this now again. Init complete, preload, load, I have load complete, pre-render, render complete, and then your page or load is done, and then it will come. Right? You can see all the events got triggered. Now it actually got in one line because we just wrote the events, right? But as it paints up on page, it will paint as a HTML. So it's very important to write a for new line you have to write your break, right? If you remember yesterday we have seen that your BR is something which is your new line HTML command. Right? So let me put this break off, right, so that you will see that. Run this. Right now you can see you have pre-init, init complete. First, in any case, right, first event which will be getting triggered is initialize first, right? It can be in initialize you have three different pre-init, init, and incomplete. Once everything is initialized, you have a load where you have preload, load, and load complete, right? Everything is initialized, right? All your controls, everything, and the complete controls are coupled with the page, and then whatever page is ready, it's ready to render. In render, you have pre-render and render. Now, this is how you can actually remember your page lifecycle, how it actually works. So based on your requirement, you can actually use any of the event to actually set your things ready. Fine. So these are okay. I'll run it. So Nikit, is it Nikit? Yeah. Okay. You want me to run removing this, I'll remove this part. Run this. Now, if any exception happens, right, it will actually give me the handling here. Let me forcefully run this. It will take me to the end of page. Right? It says that your response is not available. Your context is not there. That's why you are not able to see. Now, your question may be, I have a page error, right? Why it should not hit this? Now, see, your page error event will be triggered when your context is live. Your context will be live till your page unload. Just before your page unload, whenever whatever error happens, your page underscore error will be triggered, and not during page unload, because this is something which you are doing a illegal operation, because your memory is completely freed up and you are trying to write something on a page. Because your rendering of your page is already done. Then what is the question of your again writing into response, right? Right, Nikhil? So that's the reason why we should not actually do something. At least you can free the resources. If you have any connection, you can actually disconnect it. If you have any variables, if you want to free, dispose their objects, and if you have any class objects, dispose them, right, till you get, so that you can actually get some memory for the page. Right? So that is about the complete life cycle of your page, right? Your .NET page which you have, right? And based on the requirement, wherever you want to do such, you can actually start. Right? So this is about the page lifecycle we have. We don't manage memory. It's a, it is unload is a short method which will be called after complete rendering of a page into HTML is done. Right? So in page, during page, you may create many objects. You may connect to database, get the data, load it on a page. You will be doing so many things. But the main object of complete memory object of your complete page will be disposed in that life cycle of that page. Right? Again, whenever it starts, again your page will be reinstantiated, and again that's how it works. I take it. Any question? Right? Now, which part? Can you just let me know which part you haven't? C. Let's say you have created an object of any class here, right? See, why we got an error in here is I am trying to access a response object. See, now what to do in different things are like, let's say I'm actually creating a variable, let's say, right? Let's say some, right? So I can actually free up this before doing anything. Let's say I want to free, which means I want to set it 0. Right? So when I do this, let me run it once. Right? Can you see? Now there is no exception here. Now what I am doing is I created some variables or objects or anything in my page, right? And during unload, what I want to do is I want to free all the resources. When I say free, let's say I've created some class. There is some class and created its object, or there is I'm trying to connect a database. Yes, it's not reset. We are not resetting anything. Let's say I've created a connection object, right? And what you want to do is throughout your life cycle, let's say page load, page complete, you want to retrieve different information from your database. So what I'll do, I'll create a connection object here, right? And what I'll do during my page load, let's say, or page preload, I'll connect to database. And in different life cycle events, I'm trying to get different data from database, and everything is done. Now what I have to do, let's say rendering part, everything is done. Then what I'll do, I have to close that connection, right? Where can I, across events I'm trying to use the same connection. And how can I close that connection? I can use my unload event, right, to clear that event. So that is something which is releasing resources. And when I say memory is freed up, now I am actually talking about whenever you start your page, ASP X page, right? It's a simple class, right? Obviously, it's a simple class which is inherited from your uh, web UI page. Now, once everything is done, your object of page will be completely disposed, right? And that's the reason why after unload you won't be able to use any of your object, right? Now, why do we get, when I try to write response.write on a page, why we got error? Because you can see that rendering is already completed. When it says rendering is complete, which means your object is converted to HTML and the HTML is already painted on your page. It's everything done. And after that, if you try to write some more thing, then that will not work because your context is already gone. And unload is something we use normally to free up the resources we have. When I say free up, like it's reset, whatever you call it as, either reset or completely, if I have a class object, nullify it, right? And the unload event is the one which will be called at the end of your page lifecycle. Fine, Nikhil? Render complete. You were asking something. Render complete means displaying something to user. I mean something in the sense, yes, whatever you are done, right? Like you have written response dot write, so many things, which means it is actually creating a response object, right? And whenever it comes to render, then all these response or whatever you're writing, a preload new line, load new line, complete new line, right? And all these things will actually create your HTML pattern. And when it comes to render, I mean we can actually handle till pre-render, just before pre-render we can handle. And whenever your rendering is triggered, right, everything whatever you have in response object will be converted to HTML and then it will paint it. That is your rendering part. Fine. Okay. About your life cycle of your ASP page. Any other questions? That was a good question actually, the unload part. Right. Any other questions, Shravanti, Priyanka? Yeah. Okay. So now, this is a life cycle which we call it as page life cycle or page events. Right. Similarly, we have something called control events. Right. So these control events, whenever we say, are the events for, like I would say, is .NET controls or server controls, because our controls are rendered mainly at server side, right? That's the reason why we normally call our, actually all the controls, everything will be initialized and instantiated and then served to page from the server side. So that is why our .NET controls are server side controls, right? And all the events which we are going to create on different controls, right, are going to hit the controls, right? So let's take an example. We have already seen one example of button, right, where so each control may have many events as such, right? Like let's take an example of button. So let me just close all and create a new page. So we're going to start the controls part now. Let me create a web form. Controls, let's say. Now let me drag and drop, because as soon as my page is ready, my toolbox will be ready with controls. So let me drag and drop a button, simple way. Now you can see you have an ASP, which is a ASP control which runs at server, which is a server side control as such. Fine. So let's say, let's go to design, right? Now let's say you have button properties here. Let me call it as click, right? On click you can do some action, right? So here let me just drag and drop a label, right? And double click on this. Now you can see there is a button. Now how it is registered with control? If you go to properties of the control, right, and go to event, now you can see your click event is registered with your button underscore click. Same way for this button, you can see there are few methods like init, load, pre-render, unload, right? So many other. Again, obviously your button will have its own lifecycle events, right? It may not be lifecycle, but based on the action you are taking, it may hit. Like click, which is your button click, will be accessed, right? And you have a method. So here, let me say you have your label one dot text. I'm assigning it to, let's say, date time dot now dot text, right? Which is assigning a simple text to button. Now this is my event. This is my button event I have. Let's run this. So here you can see your life cycle and your session IDs, everything are enabled, right? Let's disable or make it a cookie enabled. Let me make it false, which is enabled to cookie, right? And then let's make your controls startup page. Right, now you have click and your label is. Now which means you have triggered an event, and for that trigger you have actually got some action. This is your control and the trigger you have made. Same way, take any other control. Let's go to the next control. Let's say, let me take any control like checkbox, let's say, right? Now here you can see for this checkbox you have your own different properties here, right? So here let's say we have to have a text, let's say this as select. You can see the control will be inside, right? And you can actually set your faux color, right? Everything you actually want in the tooltip and everything. But we are more interested on events now. Now you can see for your select, double click on this. Whatever is the main event, right? That event will actually be get triggered. For your checkbox, it is something which is the check change, which means the state of check change, right? I'm actually showing it out. So here let me just do, there are some properties of checkbox. So let's say your checkbox 1 is there, right? But you have something called checked. This will actually give you the state whether your checkbox is checked or not. If it is checked, let me put on label one dot text as true, right? Which means I'm actually saying whether it is checked or not, right? And anyways, we'll convert it to toString. So I can check and make it true, right? Or else what I can do, I can directly take this checked event and property, I can assign it to label text, right? Which I'm going to change it to toString. Which if it is true, it will paint true. If it is false, it will paint false. Now let me run this. Now again, your checkbox, whenever you are checking and unchecking, as you are doing some action here, right? Your event is there. Now, which means your post back will always happen. Let me just do that. Check it. Let me select this, right? And then let me say on check change is equal to, yeah, checkbox. You can take the same method, and then I'll set text as as something, and I'm closing it out. This is a separate checkbox I'm using with the same event getting triggered. Let me run this. Okay, so let me go back to controls and I've made it auto push back through manually. Let me make it auto push back. Okay, yes. By default it should take, sorry, this. Let me clear the cache once again. Click on this you got this, and click on this again. Oh, got it. Good. So check and check, check and check. Okay, it should be true, not false. Right? It should be, when I say true, it should be auto. When I say auto post back, right? You're checking. Should take true, but it was false. Would that be? So when I select anyone, so it will take the same content because I'm actually referring to the same method system. Okay, cool. Cool. So what is auto post back true? Right? What is the meaning of setting auto post back true here? So when I set auto post back true, right? I mean, for all the controls, you may not see auto post back as true, right? You may see false because most of the times, right, whenever you have a checkbox, or let me take one more radio button, right, or different controls if you have, right, or something like, let me take a text box, right, go to the properties and you can see auto post back false. But if you see, one second, text box properties here, right, go to text box, you can see it false, but you can see that you have an event for text changed. As soon as you change some text, you may want to, let's say, assign it to text here. Your text box text, right? So these controls, when I run this now, let's say as soon as I type in text, I want to get it triggered. Right, let me minimize this out here. Let's type in something. Now you can see it is not getting triggered. Why? Because my postback is not set true. Because postback is something which will say that I want every action to be taken care of. If I am attaching any event to this, right, that event will be registered, and based on that, if it has to do some post to server and get the rendering part to some control or to the page, it should happen. Let me make it as true here now, which is I'm actually making postback true. So if you want to check out, you can check that if he is not postback, right? Let's say you're actually making label 1 dot text, or label 1 will not work because anyways you're actually changing it, right? So that's fine. The postback will happen over here, and now run it. So for your text, let's say, right, and you have handled your text changed. Let me clear the cache. Oops, one second. Let me run this. Right, you can see here it is populating it. But anyways, your event is now being triggered late because my machine is running late. Let's do one thing. Let me put this label side by this text. Now run this. So let's type in something. Type your event. So now I've typed something. which means my text is changed, right? So when I go back to some other page, right, now you can see the post back happened and it will change, right? So this is something which is your text changed. After you change some text, let's say I'm putting some text here and my focus is lost, which means as soon as your focus is lost, your text will be changed. That is your text change event you have, right? More events you can check out here. You have text changed, right, unrolled, binding, different bindings, right? But these events will be triggered only if you have your main property called auto post back true. For most of the controls, the auto post back will be false by default, right? And then you have to actually make it true, right? So that it will be it has to get that, right? So this is, anyways, we are going to see, in depth of controls, right? Different functionalities it will provide. Like take an example of text box. You can see that it can be single text or multi-text or password type and all. So we'll actually see a few controls on .NET 2 in our controls concepts.